This war has dragged down long enough. This war has dragged down long enough, I think. Let's shut it down. Let's slow the operations. 2 weeks to slow the spread, 2 weeks to slow the operations. That's what Trump's gonna say. 2 weeks to slow the operations in the Middle East. Trump, biggest rug pull. Trump coin. Official Trump. You like the Trump coin on Solana? You like the Melania coin? Those are they got it. They're gonna have an official Trump ETF. They're saying they're bringing out the ETF for the official Trump coin on Solana. I'm interested in the ETF. I've got a lot of money to spend on a stable long-term investment. So market dip, buying opportunity, blood in the water. You gotta buy. You gotta sell the oil. Sell the oil. You're gonna be looking for me in Columbus. I'm not gonna be in Columbus. You're gonna be disappointed. You have to go somewhere else in Ohio to find me. That sounded weird. Was there ever an Ayatollah coin? There probably was. Probably just rugged within a minute. Just like the Ayatollah got rug pulled by a ballistic missile. Did you see Ukraine is sending a drone specialist to help defend incoming Iranian drones to U.S. bases? Well, that's good. Maybe they think they want to give us one back. They want to repay for the amount of money we've spent on the war for Ukraine. It won't end because Iran.
At Ryanj 5658 tip $5 through Super Chat. It won't end because Iran said they will never concede or accept any deal.
Yeah, but they might change their mind if they continue to get bombed. I mean, obviously, right now it's only 5-6 days in, whatever. If they continue to get bombed, they might change their minds if there's new leadership. I mean, you don't know. Well, the Board of Peace is like a bunch of third world countries. Honestly, he's just trying to control international. He's trying to create an international structure that's fully controlled by the United States. Basically, that's what the Board of Peace is. And a lot of the United Nation members are not joining it. I know you see all this coping where they say, well, Iran is doing well. It's going to turn into, oh, it's a genocide. That's what somebody was saying on Twitter. It's going to shift. They're going to shift it. They're like, well, Iran is actually winning. Okay, come on. But then in 2 weeks, it's going to be like, oh, now it's a genocide against Iran. They're going to have to admit Iran is losing, but then they're going to turn it into a guilt trip. Yeah, it is very nice. It's very nice throughout much of the Northeast, I believe. It's really lukewarm weather. It was like 60. I think the high today was 70 degrees, honestly. I'm not even. Yeah, no, the high was 70 degrees because it's 64 degrees right now. So the high was like 71, it got up to. It's pretty warm for March, but then it's going to go back down next week. If the war isn't done by day 14 with gas prices, Trump will really start losing the public opinion. Yeah, because there's going to be a lag on how this is affected domestically. Dude, I didn't even realize crude oil was above $90. I thought it was probably like 75. Honestly, I didn't even know. I was doing a video. I was like, well, let me just check the price of crude oil. People are bitching. And I actually saw it in my area at 350, and I was like, oh, that's actually higher than I thought this early on in this war. I didn't expect it to be already at $3.50. And then I checked crude oil and it's $90 a barrel, and I was like, "Oh. Yeah." It only went to like $74 a barrel last year when they bombed them. Yeah, but that doesn't matter. Domestic energy sources with oil, it doesn't matter. It's a global market. So the domestic prices of our oil are going to be affected no matter how much oil we own. It doesn't matter. Our oil just, even though we own a ton of oil, our oil just becomes more pricey. Unless we literally just take all the, unless we just completely wipe Iran out and then we take over and say there's peace, that would be the way to lower the oil prices overall or the gas prices. Yeah, I'm not a big Tesla person, honestly. I think it's definitely a specific car for a specific person. That's what I'll say about Tesla. I don't think I'd want a Tesla. People are starving. You're bitching about a temporary oil spike. Are you trying to guilt me? Are you really trying to guilt trip me? Market value, yes, I was referring to domestic. Our gas prices shouldn't be affected because it's domestic. No, no, no. It's not domestic. The price of our gas is not domestic. Nothing about oil. It's a global market. So it gets affected. The biggest oil refinery in the world in Saudi Arabia got blown up this week by an Iranian strike. They blew it up. Well, it was like they can't even close the Strait of Hormuz because they don't have the naval fleet to do it. Iran, their entire naval fleet got sunk or something. Trump was saying a lot of the administration, the Trump administration says the Iranian naval fleet is just completely gone. Trump said affordability is a hoax. Hmm. Well, he says a lot of stuff. I mean, it depends on the context. Depends how long this. Yeah, the other thing is this is going to permeate throughout the world, and there's going to be a lot of pressure to end the war because of the economic impacts felt by everyone. Really felt by a lot of countries, not just the United States. You talk about South Korea and their market. 30 ships gone. You should find the Scott Bessent Fox clip today on what's happening this weekend. Is it an economic meeting or something? Yeah, I don't think they're going to be able to replace it like that with Christians. Yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens, but they're gonna get some serious pressure if this continues. The economic impacts of this war. Trump will restore the empire of Jerusalem through the Board of Peace. No chance of that. I'll tell you that. Not with his relationship with Israel. He's definitely going to go after Cuba. I don't know in what way, but apparently the Cuban government wants to negotiate now with Trump because they're just completely screwed. They're completely screwed and they're worried because of what happened to Venezuela. They want to negotiate. Their leadership does in Cuba. I don't know what that means. Who knows? They're at this point they're completely failed, in part because of the heavy tariffs, but there's just they have a socialist model and they relied too much on one export. Would Kamala have handled Iran differently? Um, I don't think she would be as necessarily prone to be this aggressive, honestly. But I don't, who knows? I mean, with with the Democrats, I immediately think it's more of a it's a group think. They don't really don't allow their leader to act, and I don't think they would have allowed Kamala to really make a single decision. So it would have been a conglomerate of Democrats making a decision. But I think Trump is just more aggressive, honestly. He's just more aggressive. He wants a legacy. He wants to reshape the world order. She would have been better on Iran. Well, this, I mean, I mean, it's not hard to be better on Iran if this invasion. I mean, it's you're talking about a Middle Eastern war in 2026, but we'll see how it turns out. We have to see if it ends soon, or people want to say stuff about it, just like last year. They tried fear mongering it last year, and it didn't really amount to anything, but they screamed about it. And so, who knows? I mean, maybe this will end pretty quickly. Maybe not, but it's just like they would have continued what they did under Biden managed decline. Yeah, I don't think they would be as aggressive as Trump is, just being honest. How funny was it that Trump was talking about the Iran conflict with Nick Saban? I never thought I'd see that. Yeah, well, that's interesting that they have the NIL stuff. The NIL is a real mess. So I think it's pretty nice that they're trying to get some actual real rules. NIL is so horrible for college football. You can basically just pay kids whatever they want with sham contracts through like sponsorships, and so they really need to do something about that. And it's kind of funny they're actually bringing Trump to the table, and they're trying to have Congress do something about the NIL situation, because that's how bad it is. I mean, it is terrible. Is the Epstein mess going to hurt the GOP in the midterms? I don't think the Epstein thing really is a huge determinant at all. I think it's a bad look for their administration, but in terms of if you look at polling on voters, specifically what they're voting for, the Epstein stuff is very low on the list. But I mean, obviously, it's bad if you're talking about a cover up and the way they've handled it, and I agree. But I'm just saying, in terms of actually voters voting, if you look at the polling, it's really not a huge impact. And this Iran situation, if it drags on, would be a much bigger impact than the Epstein. Because now they use the narrative of gas prices and the economy and the cost of this war. They say it's $1 billion a day on this war, which if it ends soon is it's not much, but relative to the U.S. annual budget, it's not much. But if it keeps going on and it costs like 100 billion or 200 billion, I mean, who knows if the estimates are right? Yeah, I think Pam Bondi's gonna be she's gonna be gone from the administration apparently after the midterms. It's just incompetency. It's just like Christy Nome. It's just bad incompetency, and they don't really help the messaging. They're saying Bondi is 6 Americans died for the Middle Eastern country. No, I think it's terrible. I think the U.S. casualties are just horrible. And I said maybe do strikes, but keep them isolated. And I didn't want it to happen. But I mean, the thing is are we going to guilt ourselves over it? And I agree. I think it's really bad that there's casualties and stuff. But it's I'm talking about like the cost relative to what the U.S. budget is. I mean, if it's like $20 billion, that's really nothing. Well, Vance is basically gone into hiding. They said Vance is just he's done. Vance said, "Well, I don't think we should do anything." He came out and said before this war, he said Trump's not going to do anything, don't worry. And so now they say he's in hiding, and now Rubio controls everything. I'm not a big fan of Rubio, honestly, but it seems like more and more of these MAGA people like Rubio. So now Rubio's controlling everything, and he's obsessed with the Caribbean and Latin America, and there's going to be a lot of stuff happening there. I think people like that military action a lot more in Latin America. Israel already said Turkey is next. Yeah, I've been hearing about that. I mean, dude, let's just not do that one. Do people in yeah? It looks like people in the chat like do people like Rubio over Vance? Well, Vance is really he has to come out and say something now. He's gonna have to come out and say this was an administrative decision. It was not my decision. Uh, I advised against it, and they made it because Vance is basically screwed. I mean, what is well, I still think people think Vance is going to be the nominee. I don't know how realistic that is. It's like Rubio is taking over now because Rubio can do so much more within the administration. You know, if you're a VP, there's only so much you can do. You're just like a mouthpiece. At least Rubio isn't controlled by Palantir and Peter Thiel. Yeah, but Rubio is extremely interventionist. If you look at his tendencies, you look at his reaction. He was. Did you see the clip at the airport with Rubio talking about defending Israel from like back after October 7th? Both are toxic assets in 2028. Yeah, I think people like Rubio more because he is more experienced, honestly. I mean, Vance really did basically nothing in Congress, and he kind of had a bad election when he ran in Ohio. Like he won, but it wasn't really by the margin that people thought, and it was just like, well, he won, but it was a good year for Republicans in the midterms, or that was the 2022 when they were supposed to really do well. He won by like 5 points in the Senate race, and then not even 2 years later, he gets anointed to be the VP for Trump, and he's out of the Senate. Yeah, I think the Tulsi road has closed. The things that we're hearing, Tulsi, I don't know. I don't know where Tulsi stands in terms of the administration. You know, she was extremely anti-war, and I think it might get ugly with Tulsi. I think it might get ugly. I mean, Tulsi can say, well, you know, it's what they did and stuff, but we haven't heard anything from Tulsi in the past like 4 months. And she was really anti-Iran war. Tucker or Bannon, there's no way. Dude, Tucker, I mean, I don't see Tucker running. I don't think he wants to run and do politics like that. Bannon is just not a serious candidate. I mean, he would just be going for attention in a debate and try and bring up Israel, probably. I think there's definitely some trouble with Tulsi and the administration. I think there's trouble with Tulsi. I think there's trouble with Pam Bondi. Tulsi because she was very vehemently anti-Iran war. Pam Bondi because she's just incompetent. Like Christy Nome, she's just incompetent. And so, at what point do you just say enough is enough? I mean, this is terrible for our messaging. We can't keep doing this. MTG is highly annoying. She's completely obnoxious. MTG, just an obnoxious woman. I don't think Buttigieg or Shapiro are going to be their nominee at all. They're both too small. Shapiro is Jewish. That's probably not going to fly for the Democrats at this point. Buttigieg can't win a single black voter. It's unlikely. Honestly, I do think Newsom has to be the favorite. I mean, I don't know who else from their side. I know Newsom has some serious flaws, but I don't know who shows a presidential fever like Newsom on their side. I just don't see it. I mean, maybe somebody will step up, but Newsom is gonna struggle. I think if he is the nominee, he's gonna struggle to win a lot of the swing states, a lot of the Rust Belts. Prediction for 2028 is that the Trump administration will discover the fountain of youth, and he's gonna run for a third term. No, I actually think he might try and run for a third term. I'm not even trying to joke. I know the guy trolls about it with the donations, but I seriously think now this is what I think is going to happen. They're going to look at they already have looked into it. I mean, it's known they've looked into it. They're looking into it. They're seeing if Trump is still mentally there, within the next year or so. And then Trump says, "Oh, I can run again" or something if he's healthy enough or something like that. And we found a loophole. We found a legal loophole around the 12th and the 22nd Amendment. But I just think at this point for Trump, I mean, enough is enough at a certain point with the age. I mean, it's fine leaving Trump in, but the age is the problem. The age, if you just left Trump in, I mean, I think it'd be better so we wouldn't have to deal with just the same. Because the thing is we just keep changing. It's Democrat, then Republican, then Democrat, then Republican, and nothing ever gets done. And I guess that's by design. So we would like to just leave Trump in for 15 or 20 years, but it's just not realistic. It's just the age is the problem. I mean, who's going to vote for a guy that's 82? I don't think this will start World War III. That's what they always say. This is not going to start World War III. This is a regional operation, and it's contained. It's a contained war. They physically can't beat Trump. Yeah, I mean Trump had a really good election in 2024, but I don't know, man. I don't know. You try and do that again in 28. I mean, we have to see how his administration plays out as well. This needs to be wrapped up really quickly. Otherwise, this war could define his second term. Honestly, it could. I'm not even exaggerating. A Middle Eastern war that was really just started by the U.S. and Israel. Third term is pushing it, but I truly believe he has a huge chance if this war goes well. Yeah, I mean, I guess we'll just have to see what happens and how quickly this war ends. Condoleezza Rice, she's like, I heard there was an operation in the Middle East, so I teleported myself to the White House.
Could you pop off the red cable, please? Thank you. Thank you so much.
I think you said it best in your video today. It depends how long it goes. Yeah, I know that's the other thing. People want to have immediate reactions to it. It's just like what happened last year with those strikes. Those strikes happened and people immediately said it's war. This is horrible, and it ended in 2 days. So I think it just depends. And I agree. This is more serious than that for sure. But it depends how long it goes for. It depends what Trump does. Is he proactive if it doesn't go as well as they thought to be able to pull out the plug on it versus staying in it? I mean, I just think they're going to decimate Iran, and then maybe there's an internal regime change, I guess, with the help, with the maybe some reconnaissance help from the U.S. in terms of some infiltration, but not ground troops. But I don't know. These liberals, they never learn. They're running on abolishing ICE. I mean, this literally is abolish the police 2.0 or defund the police 2.0. It's the two. They just don't learn. Liberals cannot deal with honestly having a functioning society. They're like, well, the police officers arrest too many black people, so we have to get rid of the police officers. Oh, they're arresting too many illegal brown people in the country and they're deporting them, so we have to get rid of the people enforcing it. They can't have a functioning society. It's not going to be a functioning society. Like this empathy, it's not realistic. And they think empathy is like this great noble trait. No, it's actually the opposite. It's like a 3-year-old trait. You feel like half the people in the chat are closet liberals? No, they're just further to the right, and so they're turning on Trump because this war is helping Israel significantly. Yeah, I mean, I would say we have to hope that. I mean, if they lose in the midterms, what a mess! What a mess the administration is at this point. They have to get this war over quickly because the House is going to be so hard. The House is going to be so hard, and we're going to have to hear this entire fucking summer from these liberals too. Panama Canal should be next. Nah, I think Cuba is next. I mean, whatever. Who knows how long this is gonna last, though? Right? However long this lasts, and then Cuba is probably next, and then maybe other Latin American countries, maybe Mexico with the cartels, maybe the Canal Zone. But I don't even. I mean, they already got the Chinese influence out of the Canal Zone, unless they want to try and take it over. I mean, but logistically, I'm not sure that's worth it. Already done. Panama is under our control. The zone is, and that's all we want is the zone. But yeah, I agree with you. I don't know if it's exactly under our control, um, but at least there's no Chinese influence. I mean, it's all of our ships. Like 75% of the ships that pass through the Panama Canal are American ships. So obviously, we should have the majority say in terms of the influence within the canal. Yeah, they need to get Greenland. That's honestly part of that's one of the things. I mean, Trump did kind of bitch out on Greenland, and that's annoying, honestly. I mean, we're really got to do all this shit. We really got to do all the Middle Eastern shits, but we can't get Greenland, really. That's a disappointment, honestly. I'm not gonna lie. We have to do this Middle East bullshit. Where's Tulsi Gabbard and JD Vance? Vance he doesn't want to talk to anyone because it's not a good look for him after what he said. Tulsi Gabbard has just been completely sidelined because she was anti-Iran war. Vance has to come out and say something. If you're the VP, you're going to have to come out and say something at some point. You know, it's just, it's not a good situation for him to be in because of what he was saying. Trump dumped JD. Yeah, for Rubio. Now he's brought in Rubio, and Rubio's the new little fling. Rubio's the new hot date. So we'll see how long that lasts. I actually think that you're only going to be able to truly judge if this was a good decision for at least 10 years. Well, that's one way to look at it, and that's an understandable stance. But see, the problem is it really doesn't matter, even if you say that, because we have many elections that are due before 10 years time. So even if it is good within 10 years, I mean, if it causes the Republicans to lose elections, it's kind of hard to say. Like, I know what you're saying. I understand, because it potentially weakens Iran to the point to where the Middle East becomes significantly weaker or significantly more peaceful. But it's one of those things. It depends how long it takes. It depends the involvement. I mean, right now there's so many unknowns on how far Trump's going to take this and the investment they're going to have into it. So once we get a clearer picture on that, I think we can say we could have a better idea on how successful it'll be deemed for his administration. Good for the country, bad for the administration. Well, yeah, it's a policy kind of like tariffs in terms of long term versus short term. No, they're not going to make the same mistakes in other. I don't see it. If there's one thing that they're going to do, and you can say this is a bad action and they're doing it for Israel, they're not going to meander and be involved in a 2 or 3 year operation. It would be insane. Now you can still say, well, it's bad they're investing this much into it, but I don't see this lasting that anywhere near that long. But I mean, look, we kept saying there was going to be a peace deal between Ukraine and Russia, and these things drag on. So you really don't know. Did you hear Nintendo wants to sue Trump now for tariffs? Yeah, the liberals are so stupid. It's exactly what it is. The only ones that can sue Trump are the billion-dollar corporations. Congratulations. Dude, if you act like, there's nothing more infuriating than that entire thing. How the tariff thing worked out. Because they generated all this money from companies. And this is the companies basically saying, we didn't raise our prices after liberals for months said, we know they raised their prices, so it's just a tax on the consumer. Well, evidently it's not a tax on the consumer. Now all the billion-dollar companies want their money back because, I mean, they're the ones that paid the tariff, not the consumer. And we have the money now. We're not going to give it back. We have the $200 billion. We can't give it back. That's not how it works. Those tariffs, they were in place. I don't know what to tell. We're not giving them back to the corporations. Fuck them. If I knew Trump was going to go to war in Iran, I would have voted for Nikki Haley. Nikki Haley's even worse in that aspect. What are you talking about?
At Gerald Armstrong 5,646 tip $5 through Super Chat. If I knew Trump was gonna go to war in Iran, I would have voted for Nikki Haley.
Trump passed the tariffs like an idiot. What do you mean, the way that they were signed into law? Yeah, he shouldn't have used emergency powers, obviously. Did you see Tucker's new video? Tucker Carlson's new video? No, I haven't. Is he's probably, I mean, I'm sure he's going to be very angry at Trump. His video was about Israel building the third temple. Is that what it was about? Tucker talks about Mossad false flags. Haven't we heard that like 100 times? Did Trump make a mistake on the emergency powers, or was that an advisor? No, it was obviously an advisor that should be fired, and hopefully was fired for that. That's a horrible mistake to make. That was an advisor, obviously, but it was somebody under Trump, so it falls under his administration, and whatever. I don't know. They're not going to get their refunds, hopefully, so it won't matter. We can't refund them. There's nothing to refund. I mean, they generated revenue. The tariff was it was legal. It was legal. He tried to meet with Trump and blamed Israel for the war. Yeah. Tucker still wants to have a good relationship with Trump. He's met with him in the White House. Would this be a good 2028 election matchup? Newsom, Shapiro versus Vance Rubio? Yeah, that would be a pretty good matchup. That'd be a good matchup if it ends up being Vance Rubio, Newsom, Shapiro, or Newsom and Newsom Whitmer or something. Ludnick or Bondi going first? Ugh. Ugh. I'm trying to wait for this woman to play this message. Is she now not going to do it? I literally read off all these things, then she reads the exact same thing. Now I'm trying to wait for her to play. Dude, this woman is just... U.S. couldn't get regime change from the air in Yemen. They have zero chance in Iran. It will be a hardliner. Now China and Russia are helping disaster. How much are China and Russia helping Iran? Are they investing heavily into it? Isn't it at $5? No, it's not. It's not at $5 because it was reading a $2 message. It was reading a $2 message. Dude, I'm just sick of that word. I'm sick of the word goyim. I'm just sick of that word, man. But why is it's always just white people calling each other goyim? I mean, I guess it got big because of the Epstein files. All China and Russia have given is political support, saying we violated international law. That's nothing, then. That's nothing. Yeah, I think they're staying out of it. I don't see a lot of support from China and Russia. I'll say that much. They can't really do anything. What are they going to do? What is Russia going to do? They're going to divert resources. They can't afford that. Yeah, no, you shouldn't vote for Newsom. There's no way. I mean, I don't know, unless you believe in Democrat policies or you really think accelerationism is going to work. It's likely not going to work like that because they're going to flood the zone heavily with immigrants. Canada has just an insane amount. They said Canada added 35% of their population in the past 5 years. I was like, what? Russia is sharing intelligence with Iran, U.S. officials say. Well, I mean, they can share intelligence. They're an ally. It makes sense, but are they helping them in terms of military equipment significantly? Thoughts on Fuentes? Yeah, I think he needs to start. He's trying to take over the Republican Party, and it's getting annoying, honestly. He needs to just start his own party. But he wants to try and take over the Republican Party, and so he says, fuck this party, we're voting Democrat. I don't even know, how many people he has behind him, but he should just start his own party because this is just turning into a mess at this point. I mean, listen, if you want to have your own movement, okay, But why does it have to? Why do you have to just try and ruin the Republican Party? I don't understand. He wants all the Republican voters eventually to vote for him. Massey 2028, no chance. Zero chance Massey does anything. He may run and grift off and get some donations as an independent and griff off the Epstein files. The Epstein files are not even thought of as an important issue according to voters. I'm still waiting for a 5,000. There was never going to be a $5,000. I wasn't even going to get anything because of the income level. I wasn't getting shit from the administration anyways. Maybe the Doge dividend I would have gotten. The information has included satellite imagery showing the location of military personnel. Yeah, I'm sure they're helping them with that. I mean, it's unfortunate, but they're allies with them. So, I mean, the U.S. should be. Oh, they knew that that was going to happen. Yeah, you know how they're talking about this ground war, and then they're like, "Oh, they need to draft Barron Trump." It's all a troll. It's a joke. That's not how the draft works. There's no draft. How's your crypto folio looking? You adding? Yeah, maybe in the summer if it goes down more, I'll add. Yeah, that would be a good time to invest in the summer, probably, or in the fall. Yeah, we're giving Ukraine intelligence and weaponry. I mean, this is what happens. It doesn't really. I mean, unless they start funneling them a bunch of money, then it becomes a big problem. And Iran starts using a bunch of their ballistic missiles, and then it starts to become a bigger issue. If they're giving them intelligence, you don't really say that's a huge problem. Israel would be the only one willing to send ground troops. Yeah, but how does that even work? Think about how big Iran is and how many people they have in their country. How does Israel going to even be able to do an operation in Iran that would be successful? Yeah, maybe it is. I mean, everyone's saying the 40K Bitcoin bottom, so I don't know if I believe it honestly because everyone's saying it, but that would be nice. You know, if Bitcoin hit a 40K bottom, I think it'd probably do a 5x during its next cycle. What percent of your stock portfolio is Bitcoin? I'm looking to buy some in the bear market. Well, it would be a lot for me, but it's a more aggressive. It'd probably be 50% for me would be realistic to try and play it safe. But yeah, if you're looking to buy, I would say wait. But I mean, maybe DCA. If there's boots on the ground, is it safe to say that Trump is compromised given his hard stance against it? Yeah, I think Trump has been viciously blackmailed. It's got to be really ugly behind the scenes. Trump has been horribly blackmailed, and I feel bad for him. It's just not a good situation. No, honestly, I don't know. But if they actually do have a huge military operation, I mean, what else can we say? Sell your Bitcoin? I don't have any Bitcoin right now. I'm looking to buy. What about the potential Kurdish forces that might be ground? Yeah, I mean that might be the happy medium where it's not technically U.S. troops, but I don't know what would they do, and what is their what does their overall presence in that region do? I mean, it's just such a large, hard country to deal with. Unless they like completely eliminate everyone within their regime somehow in these strikes. Yeah, I mean, it does seem like this is their one chance to do that for in terms of replacing the Iranian regime. They did say that this is honestly the main justification. There was not going to be a strike. They tried to say, well, Iran was going to strike us. The real justification would be Iran building up a bunch of ballistic missiles. Whether or not that's true, I think that's probably the most realistic option, because if you give them a few years to build it up, then it becomes 100 times harder to do what they're trying to do right now. And then if they build it up, then they can potentially have immunity to develop a nuclear weapon. But I mean, a lot of this does just seem like weapons of mass destruction justification. They're hoping the Iranian military is just gives up. That's the thing is, and that's going to take weeks. You know, they're going to say we're hardline, we're against this. They're going to have to be demoralized and hit for weeks. Operation Ajax, exact same script. Did they send ground troops? Iran will never surrender. Imagine if a country attacked a U.S. school. It would. Yeah, I mean, from what I heard about that school being hit, I think it was a U.S. missile, but it was deflected by Iranian defense missiles or something. It was something like that. Unlike Bush, Trump is telling the truth. That's a lot of faith. I mean, obviously, we can say he's telling the truth. You know, hopefully, if they really were developing, you know, but now it wants to play. No, but installation of friendly regime by CIA via proxies. That's what Ajax was. Oh man, now we're getting spammed. Now we're getting spammed with stuff.
Said I'd give it a 12 to a 15. Their army is gone. They're just about, look, their navy is gone. Their communications are gone. Their leaders are gone. 2 sets of their leaders are gone. They're down to their 3rd set. Their air force is wiped out entirely. Think of it. They have 32 ships. All 32 are at the bottom of the ocean. Other than that, they're doing very well, Coach. Very well. We're doing, our military is doing phenomenally. That's the big thing for this week. We seem to have a new thing every week, but the situation with a very bad and very sick group of leaders who were killing a lot of people. A lot of our people said I'd give it a 12 to a 15.
Wait, so he was talking to Sabin? Wow, it seems like they've destroyed their entire naval fleet. Did they seriously destroy every naval ship that Iran had? No, there's no coping. No coping here. Copium oxygen mask. Yeah, well, we would fully control the strait then. Yeah, we fully control the strait if that's the case. Yeah, I agree. There are a lot of emotional people that people have to calm down about it because. But listen, this obviously is a bigger picture thing. This is what everyone's been talking about, or a lot of people have been talking about the Israeli influence on the U.S. And so when this happens, it's seen as a complete appeasement to Israel. So they're going to be proven right. But I think we have to wait and see how it plays out because maybe it'll be over soon. I mean, they really have to wrap this up at some point because the longer it drags on, I think the worse it looks for Trump. And that's just the micro picture. I mean, macro maybe it ends up being better because there's more peace in the region, but that's going to be years from now. Well, the reasons oil is high is because they're bombing all the Gulf states. That's why. It does nothing to do with the Strait of Hormuz. The reason oil is so high is because all of the Gulf states are getting bombed by Iran. And there's disruption. If there's disruption, whether or not the strait is closed or going to be closed or there's threatening, if there's Middle East disruption, it's going to spike oil. If there's a Middle Eastern war, it's really going to spike oil. Iran lost 250,000 soldiers in the 1980s against Iraq. They will never surrender. This time, the Ayatollah is martyred. I hear ya. It's gonna be really hard to get them to surrender. They need to replace their regime through proxy help. Casualties is the biggest thing that would hurt them. Yeah, casualties, monetary expenditure on it, the economic situation, the effects it has on the U.S. markets, the effects it has on the price of energy. Yeah, there's been a lot of misinformation. They say Iran is winning the war. It's the biggest. I mean, it's a fog of war thing, but obviously Iran is been decimated obviously by this these strikes commanded by Trump. I mean, Trump has commanded these strikes and they've completely destroyed the Iranian military. So we have to give Trump credit for that. I mean, we'd like to see it wrapped up, but remember when Iran wanted to build a naval base in Central America during Biden? It surprises me how many are stuck up in Nick Fuentes' behind fools. Yeah, there's a lot of people that there's a lot of America First people that support that movement. But I don't know, man. It seems like an online movement. I don't know how well it would do in. I mean, I guess we'll see with Fishback in terms of an election setting. Their military is drone and missiles. They all their drones are being destroyed. Their drones are being destroyed by the U.S. and their fleets that carry the drones are getting bombed. Greenlanders. Yeah, Greenlanders, they need to have an actual military. Yeah, attacking the British base. I mean, I guess they do it for maximum pain. They try and rope as many countries in, and then they hope it'll pressure the U.S. into ending the war, I guess. Could Iran strike Ukraine if they wanted to? They're striking everyone they can. I mean, their missiles reaching Ukraine in any accuracy, I don't know. It'd be a challenge for them. Well, they don't have. I mean, they're on their third set of leaders apparently, because of how many have been killed. Whatever happened with Biden's stage 4 cancer, they made it. Well, I mean, that was when there was going to be a book released talking about the Biden administration by Jake Tapper and outlining it, and so it was a weird thing when they announced that he had cancer.
CBS News has three sources telling us that Russia is providing intelligence to Iran on U.S. positions and movements. The average American might hear that and think that's a big and dangerous deal, is it?
Well, we're tracking everything. Our commanders are aware of everything. We have the best intelligence in the world. We're aware of who's talking to who, why they're talking to them, how accurate that information might be, how we factor that into our battle plans, our CENTCOM commander. So we know what's going on, and the president has an incredible knack at knowing how to mitigate those risks. And so the American people can rest assured their commander-in-chief is well aware of who's talking to who, and anything that shouldn't be happening, whether it's in public or back-channeled, is being confronted and confronted strongly.
The American people can therefore expect conversations with the Russians to stop this?
Well, President Trump, as people have seen, has a unique relationship with a lot of world leaders where he can get things done that other presidents, certainly Joe Biden, never could have. And through direct conversations or indirect, through him one-to-one or through his cabinet, messages definitely can be delivered.
Honest opinion on Hegseth. He's a hard ass. Maybe he's a wannabe hard ass. He's aggressive. But I think he's definitely I don't know if I see a lot of leadership from Hegseth. I see a lot of following whatever Trump wants. But I mean, I guess that's the job. You think the biggest factor in the favor of the US is the current level of support for the regime, depending on how true the numbers could actually change everything? What, the Iranian support for the regime change? Is Ohio State, you ask, is Ohio State a lock? I think Ohio State is a lock to make it. If they lose to Indiana, they would get knocked down to the first four. Only because we tracked the movements for Ukraine. Yeah, we gave Ukraine all the intelligence. Obviously, Russia's pissed about it. They're trying to come back and give the Iranians intelligence now on us, okay? Hard ass. You think Bondi is cooked? Yeah, Bondi's gonna be going out of the administration. And I mean, I guess it's for the best, but Pepe, what's up, man? We got another mod. Andrew is in here. Yes, we have another mod in here. Wait, didn't I make somebody a mod? I don't think they're in here anymore. What's Kentucky's ceiling in the tournament? I think Sweet 16 is their absolute ceiling. You want to be a mod, Jack? I mean, we don't need to. We got 2 mods already. Yeah. I think it was. I think it was Mr. Creeper. I gave him because he was in a lot of the streams, so I said, "All right, I'll give you a mod. I'll give you a mod because we had no mods. We had no mods, and now he's flaked on me." Did we miss any huge Did you miss any huge developments? Now, basically, what happened is apparently JD Vance has gone into hiding. I'm just kidding, but honestly, we're waiting for JD Vance to make a statement. So maybe he'll make a statement today or tomorrow. Rubio has kind of taken over. He wants to really be the nominee. It's an awkward situation. The Bitcoin strategic reserve. Well, they do have that. They have that. They have the Bitcoin strategic reserve. They confiscate the Bitcoin, then they keep it. They used to just sell it. Like under Biden, they sold a bunch when it was at like 10,000 because they're just dumb. You know, with Biden, you remember liberals? You remember liberals sold all the U.S. Bitcoin when Bitcoin had its crash in 2022, and they sold everything at the absolute bottom. It's how stupid these people are. I honestly, I'm just kidding. I don't know if that's true. It probably is, though. Do you think Warsh stepping in? I don't think he's going to be. Apparently, he's not going to be the Fed chair. Rubio is more experienced. Do you think Vance should be VP? Well, how is Vance going to be VP? He was already VP, so he's going to be VP again. I don't think he's going to like that. That would be bad. XRP and the Clarity Act. I think XRP is not a great investment, honestly. I mean, XRP maybe I don't see it replacing the global currency or whatever. I know that's what they say. I think you're better off Solana or Bitcoin than XRP. I mean, maybe XRP has a higher earning potential than Bitcoin, but I think if you want to invest into an altcoin, invest into Solana. But XRP and Ethereum, they just haven't performed as well. Thoughts on the new DHS secretary? He's a hard ass. No, I honestly don't know. I think Trump said that he wasn't going to be the guy, or maybe I misinterpreted what Trump was saying. I think he's going to be the guy. I think he's going to be the Fed chair. I'm sorry. Trump said something like he wasn't, but I think he is. A lot of Hispanic hate Rubio. Well, also a lot of them, I'm sure, love Rubio. That's where Rubio would be good, is Hispanic vote. Jasmine Crockett. Yeah, Jasmine Crockett lost her primary And then she said it was rigged by Republicans. Your prediction on actual length of the Iran situation, I've seen your takes on what should happen, and I agree, but what do you actually foresee if you had to guess? I think they're going to continue striking for another about 3 weeks or so. I think they're going to continue striking and weakening Iran for about 3 weeks. At that point, they have to make a decision. Is Iran weak enough that there's an internal collapse possible with the help of maybe rebel forces? The rebel forces are going to go in. There's going to be some ground fighting. And then I think the Iranian regime, it's hard to say. It's hard to say whether or not the Iranian regime will actually fall. I think by the end of the year they might fall. But I don't know what that means in terms of who they get replaced by. Welcome back, everyone, to the Dead Air Hour. I mean, I talk constantly during these things. I don't know what you're talking about. Why do people keep wanting different puppets of what the U.S.-Israel alliance? Yeah, well, you could say either Vance or Rubio, I guess. I mean, both of them have huge ties in some ways to supporting Israel. Well, I think realistically the regime will fall, but I don't think that includes U.S. ground troops, and that might take longer. I mean, the U.S. may only be striking for a month and a half, and it might take 5 or 6 months for the regime to fall, for example. Maduro regime is still in charge of Venezuela. That's because those strikes were extremely limited, and they just wanted Maduro, and that's almost a puppet regime. It's completely different than what would happen in Iran. The strikes in Venezuela lasted about 2 hours. I mean, it's a bit different strategical goals. I mean, I do understand what you're saying. How in Venezuela they can't even regime change Venezuela, but their government is cooperating with the U.S. So it's basically the same thing. $200 a barrel of oil if this goes longer than 2 weeks. I don't think so. I think it'll stabilize. It'll stabilize, but it may go higher. I mean, if it keeps going higher, there will be more pressure on Trump to end it, or at least end the strikes. You doubt Donald Trump is the military genius to crack the code? Well, obviously, he's not giving the orders. I mean, they have their own. The United States is capable of doing it if they invest enough into it. Of course, they're capable of. The question is it worth it, and is it worthwhile to actually doing it? The amount of resources they would have to invest. Is AI going to replace your office job? I don't know. It's hard. It's hard to say with AI. Everyone just says they're going to replace. It's going to replace all these jobs. Maybe in the 2030s. I don't really think that soon. Your girlfriend dumped you in the summer over the Charlie Kirk assassination. Yeah, that's a troll. He was assassinated in September, not the summer. I think if U.S. troops invaded, they would do very well, but it's just not worth it. It's not worth. It's not worth it. They're trying to bait us into invading because they know how unpopular it is. I mean, this is another one of those Middle Eastern conflicts that's just a mess. No, I don't consider September the summer. September is the start of fall, if anything. If you consider September, the summer ends in August. It's the summer realistically, if you define it properly, it has to end in August. Now, I understand, they say it goes to September 21st. There's no way. Yeah, I mean, we'll see. In terms of the no new wars stuff, I don't know. I mean, Trump will be like, well, it's not a war. And originally I was like, yeah, I don't think it's actually a war because people were fear mongering it. But then I kind of had to admit it. Not really a new war either. Well, I mean, now you're really manipulating the verbiage there. Come on. Yeah, I feel like people are trying to guilt trip us into not supporting Trump, and we try and support. I mean, you know, you try and be loyal to Trump. At a certain point, it gets hard to do it because, I mean, if Trump says he's not going to do something and then he does it, it's like, what are we really supposed to do about that? That's why hopefully this is a quick operation. But now they've been lying about Trump. A lot of these people on the right, they've been lying about Trump on other things. They say, well, he wants trans surgery for kids and he wants illegal immigrants in the country. Now they're starting to lie about Trump on all this stuff. And it's just not good. And it's just not true, honestly, if you look into it. I mean, he made a tweet that was corrected. He doesn't want trans surgery for kids. He doesn't want illegal immigrants. He's a boomer. That's how they're bred. It's just capitalism. We need another Putin Trump crossover. What did that really net though? That didn't do anything. That was a waste of time. That meeting, that press conference they had, Putin Trump. Yeah, they lie about the trans stuff and then they say, well, Trump supports it. It's just total crap. He pulled out of Minnesota. That was actually an advisor's decision because they were only deporting 1% from Minnesota, anyways. Yeah, I agree. I think a lot of the domestic stuff is terrible. I think the courts have to be replaced. The courts have been infiltrated with these activists, and we have to. I mean, that's the institution. The entire institution is Democrat, right? So there's no you can't win. Think about it. Domestically, you can't win. All of the institutions have been captured by the Democrats. How do you accomplish anything? You can't even justly deport people. You're going to have to just say, you know what? We just can't use the courts. It's just, we don't care if it's illegal, honestly. It's whatever. Doesn't really matter to us. Maybe Trump should do that instead of getting into this war. You think Trump is bad? The other side is 50 times worse. Oh, no, I hear you. I understand. Yeah, I do see that. No, this has been a good conversation with these people in the chat. There's some of these people have been saying, it's nice to see the feistiness. Can't even deport Abrego Garcia. That's a great example. That really is a great example of just the problems domestically that we have in terms of these activist judges. They've really turned the system against. We put all of these different checks and balances in place, and now it's just been completely co-opted by the Democrats. Our system is basically self-destructing because of liberal activist judges. It's just all the Democrats in all the positions of power. And we made this beautiful system. And the founding fathers said, we have strict immigration because we're European. And it's just been completely taken by liberals. And now it's been destroyed. I'm hoping the lady will read this one. This is a long one. Lady, please read this. All right, I'll read it then. The problem is, how in God's name are you going to accomplish regime change against a 1,000,000-man army without boots on the ground? It's never happened in any of our regime-changing history. Well, I think they're going to do it with proxy rebel help. But no, I hear you. I don't see how it's realistic. I mean, that's what I was asking. That's why I said they should question Trump on that and ask, how is that possible without U.S. troops? Yeah, I mean, I think Trump's done a lot of good things. They keep lying about it now because they're piling on him, and it's an unfortunate situation. I think this has kind of gotten out of hand, right? It's gotten out of hand. They've kind of just taken the narrative and just, we don't even know how this is going to develop. They say it's going to be this huge, long war. Okay, let's see what actually happens. Let's see what happens. Yes, it's not good what's happened so far. We don't want the casualties. It's terrible. I didn't think the casualties would happen, but maybe the lady should read this one. There we go. Lady. Trump messed up from the start. He had deportation edits while deporting relatively low amounts. He should have done the opposite, deport a lot and hush hush. Well, I do have to disagree with you there, because that's a false narrative. They've actually deported around 3 million people. So they've deported 3 million. That's a historic number. The physical interior removals, they say it's about 700. The self-deportations are about 2.3, so they've deported a lot of people. See, that's the thing, is I know Trump's had some big issues with these wars, and it's not good. But, the deportation stuff, I mean, we've never seen stuff like this. The funding for ICE, it's all historic. It's all an insane amount of funding, and Trump has, I mean, under Trump's tutelage, they've completely, it's net negative migration. It's the white population now going from 57% to 59%. The Caucasian percentage is up to like 59, 60% because of this. I mean, it's big stuff. So I hear you with the wars, and it's bad. But, the deportation operations, they lie, and that's what they say. Well, he's only deported 100K or 300K. No, it's a lot more than that. Yeah, maybe it is around 5 or 6 million. Maybe it is about 5 or 6 million. You include the self-deportations. That's probably more accurate. So it is 5 million if you include, that's been confirmed, but wow. Well, that's a big number. Let's see Mad Frog respond. Mad Frog, what did you think of my retort? What did you think of my retort to your deportation concern? It's not anywhere near that many. Well, you've been listening to some bad propaganda, because we had the numbers from directly from, not even the administration, from independent bodies. They want to neuter Iran and get out. That would be great. I mean, that would be great if that's what it is, because that would be a very quick operation. It would only be maybe a month long. But Trump has said he wants regime change, but he basically is imploring the citizens to do it. So, maybe that means they're going to get out and. Self-deportations are not sustainable. Well, yes, the self-deportations are normally higher at the start of the. Yes, that's true. But still, I mean, if you're talking about 5 million deportations in a year, that's a lot. All right, this lady really needs to read this one. Please, lady. The problem judicially is that Trump is being stonewalled by Senate Republicans on recess appointments and the blue slip crap that they let Biden's appointments cruise by for some reason. Yeah, you remember the clip where Trump said that he said something about that to somebody I saw in Congress, that he basically all of his appointments were being delayed.
At him not doing
Oh
a right now, tip $10 through Super Chat. The problem judicially is that Trump is being stonewalled by Senate Republicans on recess appointments and the blue slip crap that they let Biden's appointments cruise by with for some reason.
Well, you got it read. Self-deportations can actually be sustainable if you consider the amount of money they're offering for them to leave. It's like $3K per. Yeah, but that's not even what, I guess if they raise the amount of money, then it changes things. But, even if they offer them money, fundamentally, you will get a lot more self-deportations at the start of the operation, because that's when most people leave. If they're not going to leave, if they're not threatened, then they're just not going to leave in general. I mean, some of them may end up leaving eventually, but, it is definitely the self-deportations are. We have to use the self-deportations if you're trying to defend Trump, because the physical removals, but the physical removals themselves, it's like, with the way the judiciary works, it's so hard to actually physically remove people. It costs like $20,000 per person because of all the different legal, all the legality within it. It's really a mess. That's why they have to put them in these holding cells. They can't just deport them. There's so much paperwork involved. They had to build like the alligator Alcatraz and all this stuff. That's something that they're doing because they're abiding by whatever. As people say, well, you can't build this stuff. That the reason they're doing that is so they can document and hold the illegals for the deportations rather than just deport them immediately, with what liberals would say without due process. Dude, I'm just sick of that word. I'm sick of the word cope. I'm just sick of the word cope, and I'm sick of the word goyim. It's just like. Yeah, and then they try and, dude, how about the people that say Obama deported more? Yeah, we're not even going to get into that. Are we really going to get into counting turnaways as deportations, really? Counting border turnaways as deportations. President Trump will get a third term, MAGA 48. You're sick of the word goon? You missed the word fap? Yeah, that word's kind of been phased out for the goon. Has Candace Owens just gone off the deep end? Yeah, she basically just got audience captured significantly. She got really famous after the Charlie Kirk assassination and just really is just obsessed with getting views, and so she tries to just play to her audience, basically, I think. Yeah, well, that's really when she started getting the crazy viewership right after Charlie died. Glad to see Eye Patch McCain is fired. Good riddance. Yeah. Well, there's one less neocon. Crenshaw. This war will never end. Trump seems to enjoy it. You're saying I need to step away from Trump and stop supporting him for now. He hasn't been doing what he promised and is failing with the ICE. Yeah, I mean, I think Trump has had a tough time over the past few weeks, but I don't know, man. I mean, we'll see how long this war goes on. a poor coping goyim like you, what the word goon means. Goyim cope. Goyim copium. Goyim cope copium goon. It's all the same. Yeah, but then Crenshaw losing, that's a win, I guess. You'll take that. You'll take that win for sure for the. You think Trump cares more about foreign policies than domestic? I think it depends on the day with Trump, but he probably thinks foreign is more interesting. Did you see the Goy beam? Bring in the Goy beam that Israel has. Crockett is ghetto. Crockett is gone from Congress after that performance. Now it's Tellerico. Yes, the woman does rate it randomly. I mean, sometimes it'll be right at the start of the donation. Sometimes she won't read it at all. It's like getting edged, you know? It's like getting edged and then they don't allow you to fully ejaculate. She just edges you. Where's the actual message? I don't want to read this shit, lady. Please just read it. It's a Friday and I don't want to read it. Then I have to read it. Then she ends up reading it herself.
Backward in many cases.
Mr. President.
Yeah, please.
Mr. President.
Hi, Ted.
I want to thank you and echo the thanks for bringing this group together. And I want to in particular underscore the urgency that we have heard around this table. College sports is in absolute crisis. Every single week, we're seeing another program being canceled. We're seeing another women's team being canceled. We're seeing Olympic teams being canceled. And the current chaos, if Congress doesn't act.
Backward.
Thank you, Mr. President, for the chance and the opportunity to be here to speak with you today, but I just want everybody to know that I'm just a football.
Did you hear about the bruise to the... Yeah, I saw the bruise on Trump's neck. Well, Trump's just an old man, and so he's going to bruise easily. You know, I think... I don't know exactly what it is. He's on blood thinners, but I don't know what that is.
Coach, I spent my life when we had the ball trying to get a first down, when they had the ball trying to get off the field on third down. So this is an unlikely position for me to be in to speak to such a distinguished group of people. Thank you. But I come here today with a question. What are the guiding principles for the future of college athletics? All athletics. I'm talking about football, basketball, Olympic sports, revenue, non-revenue, it doesn't matter. You know, my goal as a coach for my players, for our players, was to help them be more successful in life, that we would create an atmosphere and environment that would help them through personal development, academic support, 668 degrees and 17 years at Alabama, and help them develop a career as a football player. That was our goal, so that they were creating value in life and we were preparing them for their future past athletics. So what happened? You know, in this current system that we have, that became impossible to do because people, instead of making
those jobs reports are going to be fucked because of the way they're the deportations and the way they're treating immigration. You know, they restrict all the visas. They say, well, the jobs go down. They're restricting all the visas and they're deporting people and there's not illegals in the country. So the jobs reports are going to be worse. The payrolls are going to be worse. Tariffs are not positive for job growth. That's a symptom of it.
decisions about creating value for their future, they were making decisions about how much money could they make at whichever school they could go to or transfer to. So
there should be manufacturing jobs in the car industry, especially.
I think we have a challenge here today about the ramifications of this current system on how it helps players be successful in their future and how we can impact and create a system that will help and preserve the opportunity for student athletes to be able to have success in their future beyond athletics. So we need to develop an effective system of revenue sharing, authentic name, image, and likeness, authentic being you have.
The Iran war is bad news, not hearing good things. Not sure why we're getting involved in a never-ending religious war halfway across the globe. Yeah, I mean, you know, obviously they have their reasons, but it's unfortunate that Trump has decided to do this, I'll say. But if it ends quickly, I mean, I think it can be salvaged in a way. But I mean, you know, we're forced to sit here and defend this after everything that we went through with the, you know, Republican Party and the neocon establishment, and now this. I mean, it's a challenge.
Marketing value, which now we have collectives, which just create opportunities, which just become pay for play. Eligibility issues, where we have guys playing 6, 7, and 8 years. So you have 25 and 26-year-old people playing against 18 and 19-year-olds, which is not healthy. Transfer rules, we have over 4,000 people in the portal. Fans don't like it. Support groups don't like it. It's not really healthy for players in graduation to transfer several times in your career. You really put yourself in a pickle in terms of your ability to graduate. So I think we need to come up with a system, and we obviously have to do it with the president's leadership and also with Congress probably, whether it's antitrust legislation or whatever it is, to allow student athletes in all sports, including women's and Olympic sports, to enhance their quality of life while going to college, but still provide opportunity to advance themselves beyond their athletics.
Thank you, President Trump. It sounds like the Russians are helping Iran target and attack Americans now.
That's an easy problem compared to what we're doing here. but can I be honest? It's just, I have a lot of respect for you. You've always been very nice to me. What a stupid question that is to be asking at this time. We're talking about something else. Can we keep this maybe a little bit? Go ahead, please.
That was Peter Doocy. Remember when Peter Doocy came out that he was dating Corinne Jean-Pierre? That was a good relationship. You want to work on 68 coin? They probably already created it. I don't know. They said Saban. I think Saban's a Republican, but I'm not sure. Favorability ratings. Democrats' favorability of these people. Vance minus 71. Rubio minus 50. Vance. Hassan Piker. Nobody knows who Hassan Piker is. Yeah, no surprise Obama has the best favorability. Yeah, Iran is wow. So Iran has basically depleted their entire ballistic missile inventory. We'll see if this gets replenished. Yeah, I do remember that one. Scott Jennings and Caitlin Collins. That's a good couple. That was a good couple. You're worried about inflation with this war? Gas has skyrocketed. Yeah, that's the problem. It's the ripple effects. I mean, how much this is political capital you're investing into this war, and it's going to have effects, and it's going to be negative for the economy, and it's going to be used against Trump. So I'm very worried about the economic effects that this war could have. How can Trump lower gas prices in the short term? Stop the strikes. There has to be clarity with what's going to be happening in the Middle East and hopefully a transition to peace. But obviously, he doesn't care about the gas prices right now. I mean, that's just the reality. You're saying it's supply and demand, not inflation? Well, it creates inflation. Well, technically, it doesn't create inflation. See, this is the thing that people always do. They do it say, yes, no, it doesn't create the printing of money, but it makes something more expensive. So technically, it's not inflation, but people are going to characterize it as inflation because that's what they think inflation is. But technically, no, it's not inflation because it's not the expanding of money supply. Rather have a kid with pure white, half Orion. I mean, I just say white. It's a weird question, man. The economic situation will be better the quicker the war ends. 100%. That's why it's just the fact that there's a war in the Middle East, and what Iran is doing is obviously they're targeting these Gulf states that have a bunch of oil because it's going to drive up the price of oil. Isn't the conflict just to hurt China? You know, that really hasn't been a narrative that I've seen a ton. You would think it would hurt China because of the amount of oil that goes to China from Iran, but I don't know. Do you think that he thought this was going to be more of a Venezuela situation and he got in over his head, or do you think that they expected this to be longer? There's no way it can't be a Venezuela. Well, I think the country is just too big and it just can't be a Venezuelan situation. I mean, I guess you truly don't know if you wipe out half of their regime in a day how they're going to react, but do you think anyone is advising Trump on how this looks, or is he too stubborn? Well, Trump is surrounded with advisors that are just yes men, and I can almost guarantee that very little people are going to be able to get through to Trump and say, "Hey, you can't do this. This is a bad look." At this stage, Trump just doesn't listen to that type of advisement. You know, Trump has been doing this now for what 10 years, his second term. He's not gonna. I don't think he really listens to advisors when they tell him not to do something because it's not good electorally or something. I mean, I don't think he really listens to many of them. 87% of oil from Iran goes to Beijing. Well, you know, they get about 12 to 15% of their oil from Iran. And so, you know, I mean, it's going to affect them for sure. I just haven't really seen their administration talking about it at all as a reason to do it. Admit it, Trump fucked up. Well, I think we have to see how it develops in terms of how long this lasts. They're just gonna buy more Russian oil. I mean, it depends on the price, I guess. Yeah, it'll last a good 20 years. That seems realistic. I just think people, they know what happened previously with the Middle East. They don't want the same thing to repeat, so they're not supporting it. Do you think that Rubio is supporting all of this Iran? Absolutely. I think Rubio is a vehement supporter of this type of action. I think Vance has less support for this than Rubio, believe it or not. You think it feels like Iraq 2.0? I don't think there's any chance they do an Iraq 2.0. They've got to, at a certain point, they're going to have to. Well, I mean, it depends. Is there going to be ground presence? That would be the first step. Have you seen momentum from James Fishback? Seems like he's got a real chance now. I haven't seen much momentum from him, honestly. I don't know. Was there a poll? I mean, the casualties are definitely a terrible, terrible thing. Fishback secured a Fox News debate against Byron Donalds. Well, yeah, of course they're gonna have to debate. If you want to be governor, you got to debate. Bro, you keep repeating the same thing. Maybe why JD is more in the shadows if he doesn't agree. That's what people think. I don't know if that's true or not. But there'll be Axios always seems to have shit about that internally about the administration. There'll be an Axios story that says JD Vance secretly didn't support the operation. Now there's a fracture. Rubio has kind of moved above Vance. I think everyone can see it. It just, and it's a byproduct of Rubio being more hands-on within the administration. They always say the VP doesn't do much anyways. I agree. There's no way they can make the same mistake that they made in Iraq with the nation building bullshit. But I mean, dude, they're talking about doing it. But Trump actually hasn't talked about it. He says he wants the Iranian people to do it. What the hell happened to NFTs? It's just nuts. NFTs were never sustainable. They just were never. I mean, it's the same thing with like 99% of meme coins. They had a cycle, then they're done. There's no actual real worth to them. And really, with NFTs, there's no community to them either. So the value of NFTs is always just bullshit spec. It's like a meme coin that has no community. You think the Rubio president of Venezuela, president of Cuba, president of Greenland memes unironically helped him? Probably. I mean, they give him more relevancy for sure. Like Dark MAGA. Dude, you're obsessed with Dark MAGA. Literally, I could. You know how much money I could have made if I sold Dark MAGA when I was fucking streaming on election night? But I definitely should have sold it. I couldn't even tell. But I thought Dark MAGA would do better than that. Elon even wore the hat. I know, that's crazy. Like, what the fuck? Crypto slop. Slop copium. Goon. Goyim. Bro, that Epstein coin didn't do shit, though. That Epstein coin, I think, only went to like 750K, if I remember correctly. Vance angling to be the anti-war candidate. Yeah, but then he would fracture from the administration. I mean, what is it? Vance is in a horrible position. Why do you support the current war? Well, I mean, look, I'm not a fan of the war, honestly, but as long if it's over quickly, maybe you weaken Iran. Imagine if Trump was as hard on Greenland as he is with Iran. Well, it's actually harder for Trump because the amount of European countries that are against him with Greenland. I hear what you're saying, 100. I do, but it is a different situation because now all the European countries support Trump with Iran. Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, man. Didn't you have you make 110K or whatever? You were telling me about that. Yeah, I remember. Chance of World War III. I don't. There's not a high chance of World War III over this. This is a regional conflict. Knock on wood. Why is taking out a hostile nuclear power? There, I wouldn't classify them as a nuclear power, man. I think that's a bit ridiculous. I mean, they already took out a lot of their centrifuges. I thought. After Rubio gave his speech on American heritage, Vance really started to feel like a side character. Yeah, Vance has really got to do something to come back to the forefront. But the problem is, he was saying stuff before this, and he said, well, we're not going to do a war or a regime change or something. And evidently, it looks like that's what it is. So he's kind of just said, I'm not going to say anything anymore. But I don't know what's going to happen with Vance now in the administration. He's just going to have to suck it up and support it. I mean, as the VP, what else can you do? Iran is more about the petrodollar, and China removing their nuclear weapons is just a bonus. Yeah, I question how much is China impacted by Iran. I mean, maybe it's a lot. I know they get a bunch of oil from them, but people also say they're just gonna supplement it by getting oil on black markets. Well, there's just no way Iran is gonna win in any meaningful way. They're gonna be decimated, but the question is, after they get decimated, what happens to their country? And they're not going to like literally decimate the entire country, but they're going to decimate all of the important infrastructure for the military. Vance has a foreigner wife. People act like Vance is some white nationalist. Yeah, dude, I know he has an Indian wife. People always talk about that to me. Yeah, Chowbricks is that's a good one if you want, if you want the boxes. Do you think Venezuela was done to offset the oil costs for the Iran war? Yeah, it's just not how oil prices are They didn't. You're not losing oil. The oil is going up in price because of instability. That's why. You're not really losing oil. It just goes up when there's instability in the Middle East. I mean, it would go up anyways if we didn't have the oil in Venezuela. It would still go up. It would go up at the same rate because it's a global market. The Venezuelan oil, I think, is in terms of like. Actually, no, I think they do have the world's biggest oil reserve. So I don't know. Somebody was telling me it's like only 5% or something. When does the Cuban invasion happen? I don't know. It's hard to say. Probably June or July. Hostile power that obviously wants nukes and hates us. Yeah, but you're insinuating they're a threat to us. They're not. That's the problem. Look, if you want to say, well, they're a threat to Israel and we got to support Israel, that's one thing. But you can't. The verbiage you're saying.
At Alexis tip $5 through Super Chat. What if Vance resigned due to difference of opinions and started campaigning as an anti-war candidate in 2028?
That he would not do well. I mean, at that point, he just kind of he would just throw his political career away if he tried doing that. Honestly, it just I don't think a rebrand like that would really work for him. He's already teetering as it is. You can't go against MAGA like that. It would not go well. Do you think a Carlson-Fuentes alliance to pressure the GOP candidate in 2028 could make a serious impact among young voters in swing states? Yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, I think the young voters hate Israel, and the young voters normally don't vote very much, though, so I don't know if it's going to be a huge impact. It's hard to say what if Fuentes and Carlson come together, I guess, to try and form a coalition, is what you're saying. You think Trump isn't happy he went against him on Iran? Yeah, Trump is phasing Vance out, but how can you really do that? He's the VP. How can you do that? Now he's obsessed with Rubio, and it's just constantly with Rubio. I mean, it's obvious. Maybe that's a good video to do. Actually, you know what? I think the president and the VP can't be in the same room or something during military operations. That's why. Because if something happens to Trump, it's a chain of command. Carlson and Fuentes talk shit about each other all the time. There's no way they do a coalition. You'd be surprised. These guys, they make up and they're like, oh, we're good again. So I don't know. I mean, you're probably right, though. He did phase out Pence. Dude, Pence is a completely different... Pence is eons ago. The idea that Pence was to be the VP for the evangelicals. Remember that? I think Laura Loomer is a really obnoxious force, and yeah, Laura Loomer is really annoying. And if Laura Loomer's actually talking to Trump, that's somebody that Trump should just phase out of conversation. Laura Loomer was like, I had a conversation. It's like, she's like, I had a conversation with Trump. Oh, great. That's just awesome. Pence is an ancient relic. You gotta dust it off. Apparently, he's been supporting Trump from what I've seen, some of the comments he's made. Yeah, I mean, I think Vance... I don't know. I don't really know how to help Vance at this point. He may have to come out and make a statement. He's going to have to say something. He's going to say, well, this has been a successful operation, and I'm sick of hearing about Rubio, but he's done a good job. He's going to say something like that. Look at what happened to Mike Pence. Is JD going to do anything considered betrayal? Yeah, Vance knows he can't do anything. Vance cannot do anything to betray MAGA. It would be horrible for his political career. And he's better off just saying, well, the strikes have been successful. Just say whatever. Where does a career like Pence go? Fox News. Now, Pence can't even go to Fox News. Pence does do interviews with, like, remember when Pence was running for president in 2024 and Tucker Carlson asked, are the people in Ukraine more important than the people in America? And then he's like, yes, they are. He was saying the people in Ukraine are more. I feel bad for Mike because I think he misinterpreted the question, but then you all think Rubio has it for 2028. I don't know if Rubio has to confirm. These guys they all want to be president. Let's be honest. Rubio had said, "Well, I don't want to be president yet. It's whatever. I want it to be Vance." But I think Rubio is gonna say, "Fuck it, I'm running." That's what I'm guessing is gonna happen. I think Vance is just gonna tell Rubio to fuck off and say you can't run because he's the VP, so he's next in line. So then there'll be some infighting. You don't think they would try and get nukes with intercontinental capabilities like North Korea, even Pakistan, which currently developing? Yeah, but the other thing with that is, so they develop the nukes. Are they really going to launch a nuke against the United States? That would probably be the dumbest thing. Their entire country would be obliterated if they did that. So even if they developed the nukes, I don't really think they'd be a threat. This is just kind of understanding threat management. Look, I'm not saying. Listen, I think Iran not having nukes is better, but to me, this is not even about nukes. It's not. Now you have people saying in the chat it's about China, it's about oil, it's about Israel, it's about just purely helping Israel have full control of the Middle East. But it's not I don't think it's about the nukes anymore. Last year maybe they could say it's about the nukes. Yeah, sure, it's about the nukes. But it was also about a weakening Iran in general. They don't have nukes and never did. Well, they had 60% enrichment. That's pretty far in terms of development. You're right. I guess there was no confirmed nukes that they had, but nobody said they had nukes. They just had 60% enriched uranium. Apparently, JD and Rubio are actually good friends before were actually good friends before being selected to the administration. So the best thing for Rubio to be VP and then become president after J. Yeah, but I don't see that really working out that way. That seems like you would be having 3 straight Republican presidents if that's the case. If he decided to do that and allow Vance to have the nomination, because it would go from Trump to Vance to Rubio. Max Crosby from the Raiders got traded to the Ravens for a 2026-2027 first. Wow, I think that's a good haul if they got 2 first-round picks for him. That's a pretty good haul. That's what the Browns should do with Myles Garrett. That's a good haul. The GOP isn't going to win in 2028. Bro, you're coping. Dude, you're coping. Of course they're going to win. Remember that word? Can't remember 3 straight presidents from the same party. That's why I'm saying if you're Vance, or if you're Rubio, it probably makes sense to run if you want to have a chance to win. Ian Miles Chong, remember when he filmed Dubai? Remember when he filmed the nightlife in Dubai? Peppo Clown? Really? Honkler? Not that thing.
As you know, my son, Joe, is a high-level.
The jobs report is it's going to come in lower because they've deported a lot of people. They're not bringing any cheap labor. The quality of jobs is going up. I think the quality of jobs, there's no more useless government jobs. There's none of these immigrant jobs. There's none of the visas. It's all been eliminated. So the jobs are good, and there's the tariffs. It's not good for job growth, tariffs. So those things will contribute to lower job growth.
D1 athlete, third-year relief pitcher, University of Maryland.
How would I know that?
We're very involved.
He said, as you know,
Because I've told you.
the guy is.
I've told you that.
That's all right.
Thank you. But the eligibility thing is a disaster in the NCAA. You have
Was Barron Trump at this event? Did Barron Trump speak at this event or no?
I just got off the phone with President Trump, who gave himself a 15 out of 10 on how the war is going so far. Here's some of the newsy things he told me in about a 5-minute conversation. Number one, he said, quote, Iran is not the same country it was a week ago. A week ago, they were powerful, and now they've been indeed neutered. On the question, this is a really important question of who's going to be the next leader of Iran. He said to me, it might be okay if it is still a religious leader. Quote, well, I might be, yeah, it depends on who the person is. I don't mind religious leaders. I deal with a lot of religious leaders, and they are fantastic. He said, the key is that there has to be a leader that's going to be fair and just, do a great job, treat the United States and Israel well, and treat other countries in the Middle East. They are all our partners. What about the rising gas prices? He said, that's all right. It'll be a short-term time. It'll go way down very quickly. I asked if that is going to depend on what's happening in the Strait of Hormuz. He insisted that's already figured out. We've knocked their Navy because, you know, when you knock out the Navy, they can't do what they wanted to be able to do. So the Navy is we just hit about the 25 mark. Can you imagine that? The big ones, 25 ships are down. Here's something else that's pretty newsy that he offered. I didn't ask about it, and it's Cuba. He said, Cuba is going to fall pretty soon, by the way, unrelated, but Cuba is going to fall too. They want to make a deal so badly. He said, they want to make a deal, and so I'm going to put Marco Rubio, of course, over there, and we'll see how that works out. We're really focused on this one right now, meaning Iran. We've got plenty of time, but Cuba's ready after 50 years. I've been watching it for 50 years, and it's fallen right into my lap because of me. It's fallen, but it's nevertheless fallen right into the lap, and we're doing very well.
Well, something will happen in Cuba very soon, some deal or something. Serious interest in deploying American troops on the ground in Iran. The 5th president, Kamala Harris was never a president. What? Neither was Hillary. What the hell?
I also like to honor the 5 presidents who are sitting here today. President Harris, President Clinton, President Bill Clinton, First Lady Jill Biden, President Biden, and Chicago's own South Side, President Barack Obama.
Yeah, don't really understand that. Grades for the Trump administration. Vance A+. Yeah, people would disagree with Vance's grade. Elon Musk. Elon Musk F-. No, I'm kidding. Dan Bongino F. Hegseth A+. I don't know about that one. Yeah, they gave Bongino an F. Doug Burgum B+, modern day Washington.
And Marco has a conflict of interest that he didn't reveal, which is a very serious charge. Could be a criminal charge, actually, because his son is a very good player for a very good college and makes money with NIL. So this is a serious conflict of interest. But we'll take him. We waive his conflict.
His son's like a bench warmer on Florida, I think.
And a great champion of college athletics, former, as I just said, Secretary of State, a woman who's really respected, Condoleezza Rice. Thank you very much again, Condoleezza.
When there's Middle East war and war in the air, you can count on Condoleezza Rice to be there.
Appreciate it. Ron, please.
Well, thank you, Mr. President, for doing this. I mean, you have pedaled to the metal on so many different issues, from national security to border to energy, and you're not taking the pedal off any of that. And you could be forgiven to say college sports is important, but your plate's full, and you just added it to all the other things that you're doing. And I thank you for that, because this would not get done without your leadership. No one else could get this group together. No one else could work with Congress to be able to do it. And so I appreciate it, because it is important to a lot of people. I mean, we know this is...
Appreciate it.
Big Ron.
Talked to me several times. We had several meetings during the transition talking about it. And he said to me one day, we had a meeting, I left his office, and then Natalie came chasing me down the hall, and she goes, the president wants to...
Is he running for anything? I don't think so. They said he may make an attempt in 28 again, DeSantis. I don't think it's very likely, though.
tell you something he forgot to visit with you about. So I came back into his office, and he said, Christy, do you know those ads that you did in South Dakota?
Oh,
and
yes,
I said,
yes,
yes sir. You mean my Freedom Works Here ads? And he said, yeah, those ones where
This is from a while ago.
What you're seeing, especially in what used to be called the White Dominions, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, especially, is you're seeing they're starting to speed run. They're starting to come out of their crouch and basically just be like, yeah, actually, in the 21st century, I think they've increased the population of Canada by like 35%. Right. And so even that is small. Even that is small. The Spanish government was just like, we're going to legalize 500,000. Oh, but that's just an estimate. That's just an estimate of how many people that plan will suck in. It probably will be more like over 1 million. Right. And so, and those people are Schengen. They can go anywhere in Europe, and you will see them do that. And so what you could see in the US, if basically the next time the Democrats win the presidency, people talk about like mass immigration. Like, no, we have not seen mass immigration. We have no idea what mass immigration is. Mass immigration is not 2 million people entering the U.S. a year. Mass immigration starts, I would not call it mass until it was like 10 a year. And like mass immigration is really the 10 to 50 to 100 million a year.
But that's what could spark civil war.
No.
I don't know. I'm seeing it here.
No, because people have no balls. People have no balls. And actually, like, they will not resist. They will not resist. All of, the thought that they will.
They're not going to accept 10 million people a year. I mean, come on. U.S. baseball is winning. Yeah, Brazil, they should easily beat Brazil.
Kristen. President, you just said on Fox that it doesn't really matter if Russia is giving Iran information about military assets. Why doesn't it matter if U.S. military is put in danger by Russia? And is that what the president believes as well? What I meant, Kristen, and thank you for giving me a chance to make it very clear, is that it clearly is not making a difference with respect to the military operations in Iran, because we are completely decimating them. As I said earlier, we've taken out nearly 30 of their ships. Their Navy has been deemed combat ineffective, 90% reduction in ballistic missile.
Yeah, I don't see how this narrative is that big of a deal about Russia. They're giving Iran information. Well, they're allies with them. So, I mean, are they giving them some serious weaponry?
And you'll excuse me, I just ran out here. I asked him about this report that the Russians are helping the Iranians target Americans. And the president, who wanted to stay on topic, said he thought that was a stupid question. Brett?
Nice job jogging to the camera. I know how.
All right, guys, that's going to do it for this live stream. I watched a lot of videos. I think I'm going to do that more. I think I'm just going to play the videos and then react to them or something. Just let the timeline do it. But that's going to do it for this live stream, guys. Make sure you like the video down below. I'm going to try and go live more often. All right, guys, I will see you later.